Guys, it's about 12:33 right now here Easton. It's 11:33 right now Central. This is you're looking at the information on Tropical Storm Ernesto as of the 11 o'clock advisory this morning. So, kind of new information, and this is actually a big revelation on whether Ernesto will be a hurricane or not. His current sustained winds, look at this, they weakened 50 miles an hour. He's moving faster, but he's really starting to encounter some, he's really starting to get a little beat up here. Last night, he was really organized. You could see a nice, well-defined tropical cyclone. Now, he's really torn up, and it looks like he's not going to become the hurricane that a lot of us expected. And also, a major change between the 2 a.m. advisory and the 11 a.m. advisory is that his whole entire track really has shifted. It really looks like he's going to hit in Mexico. It does not look like he's going to affect the United States. So that is, again, what's going on. Now, this is the potential track. This is what I use a lot for more particulars. The maximum sustained winds right now are 50 miles an hour. His gusts are 65. He's moving west at 20 knots or 23 miles an hour. His pressure is 1,006 millibars. Now, here's the situation. There is models, particularly the National Hurricane Center and maybe a couple of other ones that say, hey, he's going to turn into a hurricane, a weak Category 1 hurricane. I don't see it. Believe it or not, I just don't see Ernesto becoming a hurricane. I think the National Hurricane Center has been kind of going a little overboard with their forecast this time around. I think they've been going a little bit too high. Here, what I'm doing is I'm actually starting to back off from the National Hurricane Center, and I'm keeping this thing a tropical storm through the whole entire period here. I really don't see Ernesto doing what the National Hurricane Center has him to do. Alright, so these are the models here. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at a ton of models, and then I'll show you my forecast track and everything else. So if you look here, you can see these two additional models that bring him into Texas. Actually, there's 2, 3, maybe 4 that has Ernesto going into Texas. But then you look down here and look at all the models that have him going into Mexico. I would say his official track will probably go something either like this or something along the lines like this. Okay, this is any of the models within here, I believe, are pretty on track. Although the National Hurricane Center is on track with the way that he's going to move, his intensity, I'm not agreeing with the National Hurricane Center. These models down here, they may be outlining something that could possibly happen. I am not totally disregarding these. Definitely not. These could potentially be showing what could happen to Ernesto the next update around, I think, 2 o'clock or 5 o'clock. Between 2 and 5 is when the next update is going to come. But, you know, these particular models down in here may be showing something for us a little later on. Now, these are the intensities, and let me tell you something. He's not going to become a Category 3 hurricane or a Category 2. I'm very, very skeptical that he's going to become a Category 1 hurricane. There are a few models that say that. But if you look at the majority of the models, you can see that the majority of them have him staying as a tropical storm. If you look up here, yes, these are the few models that are saying that, yeah, he'll become a hurricane. But like I said, I am not in agreement with all of these. I like most of these down here that are saying he's going to generally stay as a tropical storm. That's just my intake on this, particularly on the information looking at up to this particular point. These are all the GFS ensembles, so these are all the potential tracks according to the GFS, and I'm really liking the GFS this time around. It's doing pretty darn good. The GFS was originally saying, hey, this thing is going to go into Mexico. It did move a little north yesterday, but now it's back to its original track, and it looks like everything is going to work out well with the GFS this time around. If we look at this here, you can see I think only two of the GFS's ensembles here are saying that this could affect the United States. But if you look at all the other ones, they all have them going into Mexico. It's just, I think it's pretty clear cut that this thing is going to go into Mexico. Here's the intensity here, and you can see that the difference between the GFS and the other models is that this does not have it any stronger than a fairly strong tropical storm. That is the worst that this thing will get according to GFS, and particularly look at how many models are saying this thing will actually weaken between now and the next several days. It's just incredible how many models are in agreement, or how many of the GFS ensembles are in agreement with this particular system. So here's my intake on Ernesto, and actually I will show you my track here. I believe he will stay a tropical storm through the whole entire period here, and I believe his track will probably be going into Mexico. The farthest north he would go would be the Texas-Mexican border. That would be the absolute farthest north that he would go. The farthest south would be somewhere in here. Maybe even eventually the next update, it could be going out to here somewhere. So we'll have to see what happens with Ernesto, but that's my intake on it right now. You know, I've been really following this thing pretty closely. Now, what I want to do is, actually, I'm going to do something else here. We're going to go home, and we're going to talk a little bit about Florence here. This is kind of interesting. Now, the National Hurricane Center is saying this thing won't really affect the United States. I really do think that this potentially could be affecting the United States. However, this is not going to become a very strong tropical storm. I believe that this thing will probably continue to weaken, but it may give a portion of the United States a little rain. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go show you some of the model forecast maps here. This is much more east than yesterday. If you looked at my, or actually even the last update, it's much more east. Okay, and actually, if you look at this here, there's a few of them that are having this thing going out towards North Carolina, South Carolina, somewhere in that region. And the one that I'm kind of interested in is this AP07. Kind of interesting here. Look at this. This has it coming actually fairly close to New England. Okay, I would say within maybe 100 miles of Rhode Island and southeastern Massachusetts. If this were to happen, this would give New England some rip currents and maybe give the Cape and the islands a little bit of rain. But we would have to see how this would turn out, and then eventually it would kind of curve over into the Nova Scotia region and affect those areas. Now, that is just one, but you have all of these other ones that are saying it's going out to sea. So most likely this was going out to sea, but the interesting part, or the interesting piece of information, is that all of the models have since this morning shifted eastward. So that's kind of an interesting piece of information that I've been looking at. His intensity, I think we can all agree, he won't be staying a tropical storm for long. This thing is going to generally continue on the weakening trend. There is a couple of models that's saying, hey, he's going to maybe enhance his intensity a little bit. But overall, I think that the overall consensus is that he is going to continue to weaken and really generally maybe affect a couple pieces of land, and maybe give the portions of the United States a little rain. But overall, I think he's going to weaken and eventually dissipate. But like I said, he could do some rip current events here for New England. Let's say if he does turn north and eastward, that could be a possibility. But overall, I think Florence will probably, again, he's looking like he's going to dissipate and not do too much. Even Ernesto, it's not looking like he's going to become a hurricane. And I really don't think he's going to be that destructive either. Maybe rain and maybe some high waves would probably be the my number one concern. But even the winds, they're nothing to really be too concerned about. I mean, yeah, 50 mile an hour winds are pretty intense, and gusts up to 65. Yeah, they are pretty intense, but they're not the worst that we've ever seen. And I really don't think Ernesto is a major concern for the United States. I actually don't even think he's going to hit the United States. So that's what's going on with, as of the 11 a.m. advisory. I will probably post another advisory around 5 o'clock this evening. But for right now, that's what's going on. I will be back. I hope you check out my other video on the weather across the country. Take care, everyone.